validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Uh, it is hot as fuck today, isn't it? Summer has officially started, right? Damn, it's hot as fuck today, right? Like heat stroke weather. It ain't even the hottest part of the year. These days, these years, the hottest part of the year is usually late August, early September. So as hot as it was today, it is expected to get even hotter coming soon. So got to kind of figure this thing out, right? Oh, that's why I'm sitting over here like, why is my thing? I had a breeze put on me because I'm trying not to deal with all the damn heat. Okay. Then the spotlight over here, that kind of makes the situation even worse. Uh, so here on This and That, we do not let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time, and that's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe. Mash those reaction buttons while you're here. Hit the notification button so that you can be notified when we do go live, and then double check what we got going on in the membership because we're releasing a lot of new content on a regular basis to make sure that you guys have what you need to be successful. Um, we have different topics every night of the week. I got Monday up there. Apparently, Monday was a pretty hectic topic. There's a lot of stuff going on, so we're going to be talking about some of these extra. Special shout out to OG Kicks. Uh, we're going to be talking about some of these tax changes that are going into effect coming soon, and that's going to be negatively impacting someone somewhere. You think tax cuts don't hurt? No, they do. When they start messing with tax cuts and interest rates, your investment portfolio start getting compromised. Now, that's not the only change that I found. The stuff that they're dealing with the schools isn't it interesting? We have a I guess a true-blooded Republican diving into the comment section right now, and he's going to claim don't live in Democrat states. But you do realize that all of the best things that happen in the country come from Democrats. So I mean, it's kind of weird because when ICE was murdering people in the streets, the Democrats put a stop to that. When um, you get a stimulus check, kind of part of what the Democrats were doing. I mean, yeah, Donald Trump probably stamped his name on it so that he could get credit for it. But when you got a stimulus check in Joe Biden's era, in Barack Obama's era, in Bill Clinton was the first person in my lifetime to issue stimulus checks. Those were all Democrats, right? Your VA benefits, your Social Security disability benefits, your Medicaid, Medicare, that's all Democrat stuff. Making insurance policies mandatorily accept you, that was a Democrat thing. Yeah, they didn't put a cap on the prices, but at the end of the day, you're not going to get denied coverage. Um, there's so many the freaking public school. That's a democratic situation. Like there's so many things. So I love the way closed-minded individuals come onto the podcast and they try to prove their Republican affiliation by downplaying a Democrat. But you have to understand, Democratic policies influence and improve the lifestyles of people that make less than $100,000 a year. Republican policies influence and improve the lifestyles of people who make more than $100,000 a year. So if you don't make $100,000 a year, even though you're going to vote Republican, you're not going to benefit from your own vote. Um, so it doesn't make any sense to do that, but that's what people do. They're gonna pick sides and they're gonna stick to those sides no matter what. That's a sacrifice you make for loyalty. But truth of the matter is, the fact is that from the financial perspectives, when we start talking about these things, the most effective way for you to put your vote is where policies directly impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money, which is what we were going to be talking about on Monday. Um, because they're also talking about putting a stop to the increased uh, um, emissions rules that California was going to be putting out that would essentially make mandatory the hybrid electric vehicles. And that's not benefiting the average American. While, yeah, it trickle down effect will benefit the average American. The wild part about that situation is that really it's just big business because the oil company wouldn't make nearly as much money if all of the vehicles in California had less fuel burning on them. So putting a stop to that is just keeping money in the pockets of the rich. Not it has nothing to do with the lower economy. He says Democrats also removed due process for illegal aliens. So there's also that. True. He said, I never did buy into the Democrat Republican theatric. Yeah, and you know what's funny? Because of this right here, because Democrats also removed due process for illegal aliens, they no longer have a reasonable due process in a court system. They can be immediately deported. Donald Trump can capitalize on what Republicans did, I mean, what Democrats did, which allows for the ability to force remove individuals. He's special shout out to Silver One. He says, I encourage blacks to be business owners and become financially literate. Well, they're going to have to come here and learn some different ways to get it done because you can be business savvy and financially fluent and not be doing it under the confines of the law. So they have to really change the way they do what they do. It says, learn to use the system to your advantage. Exactly. and avoid evil aspirations. Exactly. I agree with that logic there. He came around a little bit. I appreciate coming from the dynamic of something less volatile. I appreciate that. Special shout out to Joel and longtime follower of the show. And then, I'll give my props to Silver Wand now that he's not just coming up here just throwing out, because this isn't a political channel. I just want you guys to understand. This isn't a red pill, blue pill, black pill podcast. We specifically give you guys information about how things directly impact your ability to make, save, and invest money. This is about self improvement, personal development. This is about you making more money and making better decisions in your life and paying attention to how the world is changing around you beyond your control so that you can navigate around that, so that you can not be broke going into the future, so that you're not grinding and struggling the way we've been grinding and struggling for the last 30 years. So, we try to make changes, and that's what we do. We talk about different ways to make those changes, right? He says they all have the same meetings with each other, and they all go to the same bars with each other. It's like WWE politics. The difference between a heel and a face means absolutely nothing because they all work together, they all get a paycheck. And the difference is that with political parties, they get paid when everybody else doesn't. When political parties don't agree, the government shuts down and people stop getting paychecks. While the Congress, who doesn't agree, is still making their $250,000 a year paycheck, salary distributed, non-interrupted. They are not included in the pay cut when the government shuts down. So you got to understand when you're screaming Republican rules, but when the Republican all stop the government shutdown that occurred in January of this year, uh, you got to remember, hey, no, actually, no, I'm sorry. The Democrats stopped it this year because the Democrats were trying to keep ICE from abusing and killing our American citizens when their job was supposed to be deporting people who didn't belong here. The Republicans stopped the government in October of 2025 because Donald Trump had some shit that he wanted to get done and he was going to get it done and he wasn't going to sign nothing until he got what he wanted. So you got to remember, but both times the government shut down, both sides, both Republicans and Democratic parties got paid. Now we're at midterm elections now. So if you like the way the government was running over the past 12 months, then you want to keep those boys in position. But November 23rd, if you don't like anything that happened over the past 12 months, now's the time to vote certain congressmen, Senate, and everybody else out of office and put some fresh blood in there. He says, and we got a President Camacho. Ah, I would have voted for Camacho. Oh man, I found it wild because I've seen, I think Kane is a governor now from WWE with Arnold Schwarzenegger going into politics. You know, Linda McMahon was in the Department of Health. I was just like, man, look at how these people are putting themselves in positions. So Triple H is trying not to do his intro music while Linda's speaking. Politics plays into our everyday lives. But look, beyond that, we also talk about on Tuesdays different ways to make, save, and invest money. Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that you can live in and potentially make more money. We also on Wednesday, oh, sorry, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we also talk to you guys about different ways to improve yourselves with your self improvement, self development, relationship topics, negotiation, socialization, building your brand, and then we give you guys information about raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages, termination, and then working on your 20 and 30-year plan. Because if you figure out where you want to be at in your future in detail, not those Miss American pageant responses, good health, oh, uh, uh, peace of mind, freedom. You got to be detailed because those are byproducts. Those are byproducts of exactly how you want to what you want to accomplish. And if you start thinking about what do you got to do to get to that byproduct, that's when you start recognizing that there's a whole lot more at stake and a whole lot more going on around here. Uh, Jolin says, almost like the script is just being written by artificial incumbles. Artificial imbeciles. Okay. And it's purposely being done as badly written B movie plots. Nothing is going to be as good as the Gen X generation. I'm going to tell you, us latchkey kids, as they call us. Nothing's going to be uh, as good as that era. But as we adapt to the future, we have to make changes because I miss the old Earth. I just missed old common sense, when people used to be able to pay attention to what was going on and then teach each other, learning from your own experiences and the experiences of the people around you. These days, people are trendsetters by doing something stupid to degrade or devalue themselves, and then other people are going to mimic and emulate that, and these inappropriate behaviors go viral because if one person can do it, I can do it too. Yes, you can, but should you? Um, It's wild. Now, Sundays is one of the most off the wall days that we have, where we have questions and comments from the fans. You guys have questions about how you're going to fix the things that's going on in your lives, and I give you guys different information that you probably not have thought about to kind of redirect your attention to alternatives to help you solve your problems. Um, so we got something different every night of the week, and then we start putting stuff into the membership that kind of helps you guys grow and improve throughout the year every every few days, not every day, but weekly, we've got stuff going into the membership. So you guys should double check that membership. He says, you mean beyond 15 seconds of attention span? Actually, it's 60 seconds of attention span because every TikTok video and YouTube short is at least 60 seconds. The only time that they have like 15 or 30-second looped videos is when they're clickbaiting, and ultimately a lot of the platforms tag certain videos that are like less than 35 seconds as non-effective videos, so that you end up seeing like a minute, 45 seconds to a minute on a lot of videos, and it's wild because that's all the attention that you get. You did that one thing that one time somebody watched it. They might have watched it on repeat 3 or 4 times because they couldn't believe what just happened. It happened so fast. But that 60-second video, that's it. 30-second video on repeat, that's it. Right. And that makes you be like, oh, okay. So now you're famous because you did something stupid for the rest of your like Steve-O, right? He says, I think I seen one idiot that cashed in his 401k so that he could buy up the pre-orders of GTA. Who the hell would spend? Okay, you only need one copy of GTA 6. So unless you're buying pre-orders and then reselling the pre-order code to people at an inflated cost, which I think he can do, if they're giving him the what you call it thing for it. He said we're cooked. Yeah, most definitely. The and just like they did with the Donald Trump shoes, there was 1,000 of them released. They were released at like $450 a piece at Walmart. People bought them up and then were selling them on eBay for $9,000, and people were buying them. People were buying them. The person who bought it for 450 and sold it for 9,000, that was a financial investment. But the person who bought it for 9,000 just for the sake of having one, that was a very financially irresponsible move. Just going to be honest with you there. But that's what we're doing. So today we're supposed to be talking about, and I was expecting to have a flood of women jump into the show today because we were supposed to be talking about the observation of why hypothetically low value men feel fear female success. Because that's one of the things that women have talked about for a long period of time. And we actually had some women on the show about a month or so ago, and I said I was going to throw it into the lineup, and this is the day that it fell on. But um, women believe that men unilaterally are insecure about female success and intimidated by female success, specifically because uh, uh, women are strong and in their feminine energy and all of this other stuff. When truth be told, we just really don't like fucked up attitudes. And when women believe that they have a advantage or some type of leverage in a relationship, they exploit it, and it starts becoming a monarchy where she starts dictating, like, anything close to, if not worse than Hitler. And that really takes away from the enjoyment of the relationship, and men have a very big problem with that. So we uh, specifically, uh, we have no problem with women working. We just have a problem. We also have a problem with, while we don't have a problem with them working, we have a problem with how they treat us when they become the breadwinner. But then we also have a problem with their ability to defer from their responsibilities as females in a relationship in order for them to fully perform more masculine roles, and then complain about the lack of performance of the man in the same masculine role while no one's doing the feminine role. So we have that conflict of interest there. So uh, you got to understand that there's a different logic there. But we're gonna cover this from a psychological concept. And if you just think about for a second that you hit the biggest milestone of your career, right? You're ecstatic. You're floating, right? You're looking at years of grinding, of late nights, of sacrifices, all paying off in this one beautiful moment, right? But when you look over to the person who's supposed to be your biggest cheerleader, your partner, right? The person who's supposed to catch you as you leap for joy, right? You're not met with celebration. You're met with silence, cold, quiet, stillness that sucks all the air out of the room. What do you do when your greatest professional success becomes the biggest threat to your relationship? And what happens when your light gets so bright that it forces him to either raise to your level in some situations, or try to dim your shine? Now, this is a story that's happening in bedrooms and boardrooms all over the world. And if it's happening to you, then you need to understand that you are not the problem. His fear, his fear is very, very real. And we're going to get into this in just a second. He says, Jolin says, shoes, hair, nails, makeup, dress, decorations, shoes, or electric bill. Bro, I'm going with the electric bill every day, but she gonna choose the shoes. I'm with you on that. So let's let's throw up a hypothetical couple here. So a lady and a man, when they met, their life together felt like and let's call the lady Sarah and the man Mark. That way we know what we're dealing with here, right? They have this ideology of perfectly balanced equations, right? They're both ambitious, driven, and deeply in love, and they were that couple, the one that friends pointed to as the ideal couple, right? Uh, he was her rock, and she was his inspiration, and they built a life on a foundation of mutual support, laughter, and a shared vision for the future. Now, Mark would offer her and tell her things like, "Go for it, babe," and "You're gonna take over the world," and she believed him because she felt he supported uh, uh, everything that she was doing, and this was a tangible force and a wind that was at her back that kind of helped her to strive and aim and succeed. Jolin says, it's not different for men though, alcohol, etc. Well, yeah, I mean, when we start talking about financial irresponsibility, women are not the only ones that are doing it. It's just that women don't have financial responsibility. So women can be financially irresponsible and men can be financially irresponsible, but men are required by women and men to be financially responsible. Um, so women can do the shoes, hair, nails, makeup, dress, decorations, stuff like that, entertainment, stuff to that effect. And no one's going to say that she's being a bad girlfriend or a bad wife because she's spending up all your money uh, on herself. They're going to say that that's the cost of being in a relationship, right? Now, if we flip the script and you have a guy that's, it doesn't let's take drugs and alcohol off the table. Let's just say, he buys a stereo system, he buys the new PlayStation 6, he gets GTA 7, he's, you know, buying things that he doesn't necessarily need to buy, rims. He's got the squatter truck. All this stuff going on. What people would say is, oh, he's irresponsible. The exact same behavior pattern. No one's going to say that, oh, tell the woman that's the cost of being in a relationship. They're going to say that that financial responsibility is not good for her and she should leave him and go find a better man. Now, both parties are doing the exact same thing. They're not spending their money correctly, but both parties are not going to be judged the same way about it. That's the issue. You know, Men have strict masculine roles that they must follow, and women have no responsibility to follow anything that they don't feel like they want to follow. And then if a man doesn't perform his role to the expectations of a woman, then the woman doesn't have value in the man. When the woman starts performing the man's role, and then she loses value in the man because of her efforts as a woman, she has effectively created the environment that she's not satisfied with, and then she ends up walking away from what otherwise was a good relationship. It says we don't have the option of failure. We don't, and women don't have the responsibility to succeed. I invest in tools. They want the responsibility, not just the accountability. No, they don't want the responsibility. They want the authority, because authority comes with responsibility, and accountability is forcing you to take responsibility for your authoritative decisions. Women are not looking for responsibility. Women are looking for authority, unilateral authority over the outcome of the relationship without having to deal with the fallout, the consequences, the collateral damage. And women aren't going to agree with that. But the truth of the matter is, that's the way it is. She can tell a man who bought his house, bought his car, built his 401k, built his estate, got a generational wealth together. She wants to control the wealth. She doesn't want to sign a prenup. She wants to tell him what he can and cannot do with his car. She wants to tell him what he can and cannot do with his house. But she's not the one who bought the house. She didn't pay for the house. She didn't buy the car. She didn't pay for the car. She didn't spend the last 40 years building the estate that he has. She's not contributing to his financial success, but she wants to control it. And if something happens where they divorce, she wants to take half of it, but she didn't bring. If he's a $1 million man, she didn't bring $1 million to the relationship, but she wants to take $500,000 out of it because she showed up. That's not taking responsibility. That is having authority and then getting paid for having that authority without actually contributing to the relationship to deserve both the authority or the reciprocation from being involved in a relationship. And that's not fiscally responsible for men to allow these things. Right now, sorry. We had somebody come in and say, hi, hello. He said, yeah, it's kind of both. He says, yep, you let me use your account to pay the bills. Therefore, I pay the bills. That's what they think. We have a lot of situations where women believe that they're in a 50-50 equality. And that's not what today's show is about. We're about to get into like why guys that are in relationships where they're intimidated by the woman's behavior, why do those guys behave the way they behave. That's what we're supposed to be talking about today. But right now, the straw man topic is, yes, this particular dynamic is the case where, women believe, there's a lot of women that believe that an egalitarian 50-50 relationship is truly 50-50. It is not 50-50 because you go half on the bills, because women want to be spoiled by their men, but women do not reciprocate and spoil their men. Therefore, if you have a $3,000 a month, or let's say that you have an overall $5,000 a month standard of living, you put up $2,500 towards that $5,000. He puts up $2,500 towards the $5,000. Women are going to say we're equal because we're going half on the bills. But women are going to get spoiled by their men. So 3,000, 4,000 more dollars out of the man's pocket is going to go on the woman. Therefore, the $2,500 that she's invested into the going half on the bills just washed out. She got a rebate of more than what she invested because she's going to get spoiled. The clothes, the hair, the nails, the trips, the dinners, all of the stuff that she wants the man to do to validate her as a woman, he's going to do that with the money he's not spending on the bills. And that means that she actually did not contribute 50% into the relationship. She just put 50% on the bills. And the bills is not the entire relationship. It's the standard of living that the relationship survives off of, but it is not 50% of the relationship. But because she pays half, she wants total control, which is a conflict of interest. If there's two people in this room, one of them is going to have more authority because you can't have two people disagree and one of them not have the benefit. If one says yes and one says no, and we're not going to do it, the person that says no has more authority. If one says yes and one says no, and we're going to do it anyway, the person who says yes has more authority. You're not going to have in a 50-50 decision making situation, one person have effectively 50% authority and the other person have 50% authority, and you would believe that the outcome is always going to be the same, right? It's not, it doesn't work that way. Somebody has more authority, right? It's just, they don't admit it to themselves. Special shout out to FX Trader. He's here tonight. He says, it seems that successful women still have the same demands at 40 years old as if they were 20 years old. They don't get it when no men are chasing them. Well, here's the thing. Here's the wildest thing. Um, Women at 40 years old still believe they look just as good as they did when they were 20. And they stop looking as good as they were when they were 20 when they stop being 20. Okay. Women believe that a man should excuse all of her flaws so that she's not judged as harshly for her failures in life, right? So if she's got a body count of 4,000, she's not supposed to be treated like an OnlyFans girl. She's supposed to be treated like a housewife because she's reformed, she's changed her ways, her past should not be counted against her. But this is the same type of woman that will hold life against a man. If he's got a criminal record from 40 years ago, oh no, she's going to treat him like shit. Even though he might be a small business owner now, he might have reformed and changed his life and built himself up. That's okay. If you did something wrong in the past, you're disqualified, right? If a man goes bankrupt in the past, you're financially responsible today, right? A woman is not help saying that they're going to be flexible about their demands at 35 and 40 years old because the older they get, the more they need the financial security. They're not going to say that they're going to accept a reformed, financially irresponsible man um, because she's damaged goods. Three kids from three different baby daddies, they're all in college right now. She's not going to do that, right? So the demands that a woman has at 40 is outrageous demands because she doesn't hold the same value that she did when she was 20. She's actually 25% as valuable as she was when she was 20. So whatever value she had at 20, she's got a quarter of that value right now is 40 because the first thing that's off the table is she's not giving birth. And a lot of men looking to build that. 66% of men are looking to build a legacy. And whether she doesn't want to or can't do it, that value is out the window. The lack of cooperation. Women in their 30s and 40s know what they want, but they know that a man is going to get what she gives them. She's not going to change the way she does what she does to satisfy a man. And since she's built that mentality, she's built a non cooperative mentality. So cooperation is out the window. That's 50% of the relationship right there. Building a legacy and cooperating with your partner. So, so before we start talking about the depreciated looks and the piss poor attitude, which is really the four pillars of expectations of female performance, but besides being effective in the household, which is like the fifth pillar, you're looking at like half of it's already out the window before we start talking about the piss poor attitude at 35, 40 years old. So yeah, when they have those high demands, they're not the guys aren't chasing them not just because they don't look good. The guys are not chasing them just because they don't bear children. The guys are not chasing the women in their 30s and 40s because the women in their 30s and 40s have piss poor attitudes. They're not team players. They're not willing to cooperate. They will lie and say that they would allegedly if they found the right man. But see, a man must be husband material before the first date and show that husband material throughout the dating phase so that she can commit to that husband material and then lead to a fiance scenario where she then agrees to marry the husband material. That's the whole process, right? Now, the woman does not perform wife behavior. There's, I guess there's like levels to this shit where she has to determine on her terms how much shit has to happen in her benefit before she starts performing as wife material. At 35 and 40 years old, that's a deal breaker. You cannot set terms that you're going to receive a whole bunch of resources before you show your value. That's a bad stock option. Jolin says, I thank God my ex-wife didn't want alimony or child support. Still hasn't left though. Overall, they believe they mature, but overall, most women are teenagers mentally. Women stop mentally maturing when they start being spoiled by society. So when a woman is younger, 9, 11, 15, 17, before men find the woman sexually attractive and start throwing money at them just because they breathe. Women have to get out there and get it how they live the same way men do. And during that timeline, women are more responsible than men. The boys are very irresponsible between 14 and 25. The women are more nurturing, more caregivers. You know, they're more organized, more focused, more driven. But once they start getting spoiled by men, where women start realizing that sex will get her whatever she wants, they stop developing. At whatever age that triggers to them that you can get whatever you want through sex, you don't have to do anything else. They start developing that behavior. And the more often that society nurtures that train of thought, more often do women believe that they are the table because they bring sex to the table. But they don't bring value to the relationship. They don't bring growth to the relationship. They don't bring logic and reason to the relationship. They don't bring an alternative plan to the relationship. They bring sex to the relationship and they bring chaos with that sex to the relationship. So they don't even bring peace to the relationship. And that's going to make it a lot harder for anybody to really pay attention to like the observations of true equality, right? He says, Disney princess. True. That's right. The Disney princess brain. Yes. Says, oh, you're getting on that. 'Cause I wasn't even going to entertain his question as far as him asking about that. That's inappropriate because as I explained on the pot. So here's the thing. Um, I let him slide with throwing that comment in there, but I expect everybody to stay on topic reasonably. So we're side topic about women's behavior patterns and this, that, and the third. But the primary topic of the show is about men and their ability to uh, not behave the way women expect them to behave when women are successful. That's a topic of discussion. So I don't care how serious a question was supposed to be worded. If you come in and ask me about Michael Jackson, you risk getting banned because that's not what we're talking about today. I expect you to stay on topic. And I expect you to either debate you can listen and learn and take notes, or debate the facts, not verbally attack somebody who delivered the information. You don't have to agree with each other. We don't have to agree with our own opinions. I'm bringing you information that is backed by facts. You don't have to agree with what I have to say, but anybody that comes up and does something like what the gentleman just did a moment ago and try to strawman topics to completely different because it's not even themed with what we're talking about today. That I'm really going to be in a position to just outright block a guy. So this is more appropriate. He says a man has to improve, adapt, and overcome. Now, the the logic behind this issue, and I agree that that if a man is failing in life, that a man is supposed to put forth the effort to improve, and then the man is supposed to find ways to adapt to his environment when his environment is outside of his control, and then overcome the disparity. That is self-preservation tactics of a man. But in a lot of relationships, where the men are being oppressed by the person that they chose, which is probably a bad choice from the beginning. The problem that we have with that is that those men are not able to improve and adapt to the oppression from their girlfriend and overcome the disparity. Because, say for example, if you have a shitty job, you got a decent girl, She's got a half-ass decent job. Y'all start becoming better in your relationship or whatever. You decide you're gonna get you a better job. First thing you got to do, quit the job that you're on. That isn't always a good idea, but a lot of the times you got to stop work, because if the job that you have now is taking up all of your time, you have to get rid of this job so that you can focus on trying to get you a better job. Sometimes if you need a better skill set to change industries, because a lot of us that are working in manual labor, physical labor work, in order for you to get into something else, you might have to go back to school and take a trade. That might take 18 months. Now, you get into a relationship with a girl, you got to quit your job, go to school, get you a trade thing, and then go find you a job, which might take you 3 months after you get the trade thing. That's almost 2 years. She's not going to want to deal with you being unemployed for 6 months. She's going to leave you. So, in a relationship, in order for you to maintain the relationship as a dude, you have to do one or two things. You have to stay on the shitty job that you're on and try to beg for more hours and try to find extra ways, get a second job and all this, that, and the other to meet the expectations of the woman that you're dating. Or um, you're going to have to accept the fact that she's going to break up with you, stay single until you can get your money up, and then go try to find a woman that will accept you for who you are now. Because if you have a woman that is supportive of your ability to transition into a better field, the way a man would put a woman through college, pay for her entire standard of living, and then aid her in her ability to get into the field that she wants to get into, in order for a woman to build a better man, she would have to find that man with potential, allow him to quit his job, go to college, and spend that 4 to 8 years getting a degree so that he can then go and get that better job, so that that better job can pay for her standard of living, so that the 100, 200, 300, $400,000 a year that that man becomes is the product of her effort, where she took care of him when he couldn't do it so that he could get a better job so that he could take care of her. That is what relationships are supposed to be about. That's not what they are in modern 2026. Back in the day, that's the way things used to be. He says, yep, Tony, and that was my childhood. So, um, I told y'all people get blocked out of here from being disrespectful on the channel. So back to the main topic. The couple, they got together, they started doing good in the beginning, but the first 5 years, they had this specific dynamic that they were a team. When he got a promotion, she threw him a surprise party. When she landed a major client, he took her to the restaurant where they had their first date to celebrate. Their successes were shared victories, reinforcing the strength of their partnership. They're climbing their respective individual corporate ladders, but always holding hands and always making sure that the other was steady, right? Now, something shifts along the way, an event that would rewrite the rules of their relationship. And Sarah, after years of pouring her heart and soul into her marketing firm, did a multi-dollar contract, right? And usually stuff like this is really changes the dynamic of the relationship. And it's going to have an international brand. And this wasn't just a promotion, it was a quantum leap. It catapulted her into a new stratosphere of professional success, recognition, and financial independence. The night that she got the news, she was vibrating with the energy so pure and potent that, she felt that she could light up the entire city. And she rushed home, champagne in hand, ready to celebrate the win that was, in her mind, their win. She found her husband Mark in a living room, scrolling on his phone. When she told him the news, his face didn't mirror her elation, right? And there was a flicker of something, surprise maybe, but it wasn't quickly uh like wow. He was his excitement was extinguished, you know, and his eyes barely left the screen. He said, "What? Oh yeah, I blocked that guy because he was being inappropriate, man." Yes, yes, yes. Um, they say that money is the root of all evil, but it's really just the greed in the hearts and souls of the people who are distracted by the money. for the most part, that is the root of all evil. So when you start having a large quantity of money in the relationship, there is a power dynamic by the person who brings in the most resources, and that power dynamic typically leads to um, a shift in control. And that shift in control typically causes a disruption in a relationship because the if the traditional model isn't present and the non-traditional model doesn't have mutual respect, the fact is that once the female becomes the leader of the relationship, without the mutual respect towards the man, the relationship starts to fail. It says getting a divorce was my best financial decision ever, and most men say that they thought they had a good woman when they started. 5, 10, 20 years down the line, they regret their first wife. Some regret their third wife. Now, the silence that followed the response of the husband finding out when Mark found out about Sarah, there was no, I'm proud of you, no hug that lifted her off of her feet, just like a wow, cool response. And in that hollow 3 word response, a crack formed in the foundation of their perfect life. So Sarah didn't know that at all at this time, but she wasn't just celebrating a new contract, she was unknowingly announcing the beginning of the end of their relationship because her success had just became the battleground. He said, and no more strings, no more disrespect, no more thinking my money is our money. Your money was never our money. If my money was my money, and you might be one of my financial burdens, but it's never an our money situation. All the bills are paid on time, and I'm not broke constantly. That's an improvement. Congratulations. So in the weeks and months that followed, the shift in Mark's attitude wasn't a sudden earthquake, but a slow creeping rock. The man who'd been her rock was becoming a ghost in their home, which is a critical voice in her head. And the partnership that they had, built brick by brick, was being dismantled, one passive aggressive comment at a time. Okay, here's an interesting question. What happens when the first wife took advantage and the second wife did too, when the third wife is the real wife? Well, if you manage to get married the third time, then usually, if the third wife is the real deal Holyfield, then likely you're going to stay with the third wife. Unfortunately, you don't know what you're getting into, since most men go into a relationship for the sexual gratification. They go after the girl because she's attractive. They don't go after the girl because she benefits him. So the logic dictates that since he's dating her for sex and she's dating him for financial security, as long as he's making the money that she wants to be secure, she's going to stay with him. And as long as he's getting the sex from her that he's looking for, that he's going to be secured. But the dynamic is that there's more to a relationship than him getting sex and her getting money. Because that's the Riley theory. So the ideology is that if he went into the relationship looking at her values, her true values, the things that she does that outside of the bedroom that brings value to the relationship, that brings that growth and expansion into the lives of both of them, and you realize that this is what we need to be successful, then you have the right partner. Now you find out that it takes you different marriages to realize that the third one was the right choice, then you keep the third one. It's not good to shop around, and the reason why it's not good to shop around is because you really have to first figure out where you are in life and where you want to be, and instead of settling for less, because the hypergamy theory has women wanting men that are better than them, right? And you as a man, if you're not where you want to be at in life, you are down, and sometimes down and out. So in this dynamic, if you are trying to build yourself up and you get a woman while you're down who's worse off than you are, you have to first make sure that she is willing to build herself up too, not just ride your coattails. If you get a woman that's going to ride your coattails, it's going to make it harder for you to succeed in getting where you're trying to be. Now, if you have an ambitious woman, you might be dating a woman that's better off than you are, but she's still plateaued. If you are an ambitious man, you will surpass her. And at some point, you're going to end up passing her by, and she's not keeping up with you, which will put you in a position where you're not going to have the type of relationship that you want, because she was good enough when you were not good enough for yourself. But when you became the man that you wanted to be, she was still far beneath you, and she wasn't willing to improve with you. So it's not a good idea to shop around. He said third time's a charm. I guess that's a good saying. Uh, hold on, let's because this is starting to take us down one of those strawman topics that I don't think is appropriate for today's discussion. This is a Sunday topic. So this is a Catherine. Oh, okay. So she says that he was really honest with me. She needed his deployment, or he needed his deployment as an air fighter, Air Force, and the other he got her pregnant and she took off. Okay, well, um, it is my understanding that regardless of the details, if the first woman wasn't the right woman because she wasn't going to work with him being in the Air Force, and the second woman wasn't the right woman because she dipped after she got pregnant, uh, then the third woman would be the woman that he would invest most of his time with, right? Yeah, a lot of the times guys think with the wrong head. More often than not, they think with the wrong head. We have three brains. Well, we have at least two strong motivations in life. Because we typically stand on desire before we stand on responsibility more often than not. He said upper head, lower head, stomach. I guess you could call it that. Is me? Well, okay. Well, so here's the problem with that assumption. You're claiming that you're the third wife and you're the better choice, and that's a self proclamation. He would have to determine that you're the better choice, because he married two bad choices before, and then he got you. And if he stays with you and you actually end up managing to stay with him until death do you part, then you successfully maintain a relationship longer than the other two ex-wives. However, if you stop, either he stops satisfying your expectations and you divorce him just because you don't like the situation, or you stop providing the benefits that he would need in a relationship, and then he divorces you. In either situation, you would be his third divorce. So it really depends. So, well, typically men start thinking logically when they get in their 40s and 50s. And that's going to be one of the things that women don't understand when men are trying to find the ideal girlfriend. The logic is 50% of your age plus seven, because once you've reached the right age to make those sound decisions, you need a woman that actually still is capable of flexibility to make sound decisions alongside you. Um, if you're 40, uh, 50% of your age plus seven would be 27, and that type of woman would give you the type of lifestyle that you're looking for, you know. But if you're 40 and you're trying to date a woman that's 39, she's not going to be a benefit to you because she's going to dwell on her own personal desires. Well, congratulations, you're like, well, he said I'm perfect. Well, nah, I mean, he can lie. We've been together for 11 years more than them. Okay, now, so here's the thing about perfection. Perfection is the ideology of meeting all of the expectations of the other person. Technically, you're not perfect. It's just that your flaws are not counted in his list of things that he expects from you. So that technically doesn't make you perfect. It just makes you good enough. So we have to recognize that. So, well, I have more money than him in the relationship. That doesn't change anything. If you provide him with the respect and admiration that you're supposed to, and you acknowledge him like you're supposed to, then it doesn't matter, because women having money, it doesn't matter in the relationship. It is how a woman's attitude changes because she has more money in the relationship. That's the biggest issue. So, women believe, well, I make more money than him. Like, that's not a bragging point. I respect him. I love him. I value him. I take care of all of his needs. I help him with organization. I promote whatever it is that he's trying to do. I'm finding alternative solutions to the problems that he has. I'm a helper. That's stuff that women are supposed to be bragging about. I keep him fed. I keep his clothes clean. I make sure that his clothes doesn't have holes in them. I keep creases in his clothes, even if I got to take it to a dry cleaner. That's when a woman starts promoting her own value. Saying that I have a degree and that I have a job and that makes me valuable as a woman. That does not make you valuable as a woman. That makes you valuable as a man to other women. That has absolutely no value in a relationship because a woman's income does not benefit the relationship. She says, I was 43 and he was 43. It can happen, but it doesn't always work out. Don't care about his faults. That's good. The rare outlier doesn't change the full totality of statistical averages. Really, so a woman having more money doesn't mean more. No, it doesn't mean anything. A woman having a job doesn't mean anything because you would be picked by a man if you were homeless under an overpass. You would be picked by a man if you were living in your mother's basement. You, in a lot of situations, would be picked by a man while you're living with another man. No man judges you based on your job. No man says, "Oh, you don't make $100,000 a year. I'm not going to date you." No man says, "Oh, you work at a McDonald's. I'm not going to date you." Now, if you're an OnlyFans girl, they might not want to date you. If you're a stripper or an escort or a pole dancer or something like that, they might not want to date you. But they don't really care what your job is outside of a devaluing job where you're selling your body for money. So, no, men don't care what you do for a living. But a woman gives a damn about what a man does for a living. If you don't have a prestigious job, you're not good enough. If you don't make enough money, you're not good enough. So, no, your income means nothing to the relationship. She says, so if I cannot make him work anymore, if I have $1 million, well, if you have $1 million and you decide to be the kind of woman that takes care of your man, he's still going to work for himself until he reaches an age where he should quit. And at the end of the day, he's going to appreciate the fact that you're carrying more weight than you need to. But you having $1 million as a woman doesn't make you more valuable in a relationship. A woman with $1 million under her belt is as valuable to a man as a woman that owes $1 million. The only difference is he has less to pay for. Honestly, a man can live in a small space and simple creature comforts while keeping us content. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Mm, no, he won't. He loves me, and it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, I don't understand where you're going through with that, but that's neither here nor there because we're talking about men with low self-esteem today. This is more of a Sunday night topic about how much you love your husband. Congratulations on loving your husband. That doesn't uh, change the dynamic of things because, truth be told, when women make more money and become tyrants in their relationships, that's when her career becomes a problem to him. Okay, and that's kind of what we were supposed to be discussing. Now, when her career is not the problem because she is not being a tyrant, then her career doesn't affect the relationship because the man's status doesn't depend on her or her income. So we got to think about that. I adore my husband. All right. Well, congratulations on that. Back to the main topic. Now, I started with a change in his language. So that's what we were talking about. You're trying to. Okay. Well, you go ahead and keep doing that. Um, so I started with. She's not understanding that. It's not the same for women. It's not the same for women because a man can never be free from responsibility. A man is supposed to be a protector and a provider, and even in modern times, he doesn't have to be the higher breadwinner in order to be the provider, because he provides a skill set that aids her in her ability to be successful. He's going to be the one that fixes shit. He's going to be the one that organizes things to get fixed. If he can't do it, he's going to be hiring somebody and negotiating with people to come and get the shit fixed. The he's going to be the one that's still going to put his life and his freedom on the line for the sake of her. So even if she was $1 million woman, he would be her bodyguard. So I mean, it's still not the same. She can love him all day long, but at the end of the day, her value in the relationship is not contingent to her income, her job title, or her education level. It is her ability to cooperate and support her husband's ability to perform and function. So if she's $1 million woman, she should be able to find a way to make her husband $1 million man in his own right. And if she's not capable of doing that, the value isn't there. He just has a shit ton of money. Yeah, he could potentially benefit from it, but that doesn't make the full totality of the relationship that much better. Exactly. Men are fixers. So as long as the woman has something in her life to fix, the man has value. As soon as there's nothing to fix, the man has no value. Stability is him continuously fixing the situation. Now, yeah, got to have purpose to get up in the morning. Actually, all men have to have a purpose, and if they don't have a purpose in life, they typically end up either doing reckless, chaotic decisions, or they just die out. They lose the will to live. So if she's 43 and he's 43, now is the time for her to find value in her husband. Have him pick stuff up off the shelf that she could potentially reach on her own, and then show him appreciation for it. Have him open shit that she could have opened on her own, and then appreciate him for it. Have him carry things that she could have carried on her own, and then show him appreciation for that. You know, have him help her reorganize things around the house, and then show him appreciation for that. Right? Make sure that he knows that even though she could have did it herself, the fact that he's doing it for her, she appreciates that, and that shows that he has value in a relationship. Her being millions of dollars is not going to change that shit. If she can't go to her husband and say, hey, I got a problem, and he can fix the problem, I mean, at the end of the day, if she doesn't do that, then he doesn't have value in a relationship. And like Joel is saying right now, depression, drugs, lack of physical activity, yes, they're going to ultimately become useless and then find themselves laying in bed until they die. So you have to find things for them to do. You have to give them purpose. And then a lot of the times you got to make them do it, because they get used to not having purpose in life, and they get used to not having a value in life, and that lack of value and lack of purpose in life, that demoralizes the person to not perform. Right. So when we're talking about the Sarah and Mark situation, her long hours once was a sign of her admirable work ethic, were now framed as neglecting the relationship. Must be nice. So, must be nice to be so busy with work. You don't have time for us anymore. You know, this is something that the man might say with sarcasm. Bastard. I'm over here killing shit. Oh, I left the window open and now I got stuff flying in here and I'm like, boom, scared the shit out of the dog. Now, um, in these types of situations, in these types of relationships, the man is weaponizing the very ambition that he once claimed to adore, using it as a wedge to drive between them. The man is discouraging her ambition, not with an outright command, but with guilt. And this happens in relationships on both sides of the fence. There are some relationships where when a man is driven by his career, some women will use this guilt to make the man feel bad about him not being at home with the woman. But the wild part about that perception is that if you got with this guy and started dating with this guy who has this career that takes up 60% of his life, and he's going to spend like 10 or 15% of his life sleeping, you're only going to have like 15% of his life. And you have to recognize that if he's like a cop, a squad, FBI, CIA, military of any kind of branch, deployments 2 to 4 years at a time, you're going to be married to him on his time off, but his whole life is that career. And when you're married to the career, your family life is the last thing on the list. It's not the first thing on the list. Oh, yes, emotionally, you're driven by, I have the career that supports my family back home, but I ain't been home for 5 years because I've done two tours back to back. So are you really involved in the lifestyle that you maintain in your mind while you're duty bound to three tours or five tours or 10 tours back to back? No. You get 3 months off and you come back, you get to spend time with your kids when they're five. You don't get to see them again until they're 12 because you're going to go do two 5 year stints. That's it's admirable, but you're effectively not involved in the relationship. And this is a lot of times where those affairs come from. Now, you're also going to see in some situations the sabotage that'll come about. Like the night before her first major presentation for a new client, this is a project that she's been meticulously preparing for. He might pick a fight with her over something trivial to completely distract her from the situation that she's supposed to be going into in the morning, like the dishes, forgotten errands. The argument escalates seemingly out of nowhere, leaving her emotionally drained and flustered. She went into that critical meeting feeling rattled and out of balance. And then a shadow of the confidence and professionalism that she had is now gone. He was creating drama before her big days, which is a tactic to destabilize her, to keep her from rising to higher ranks too fast. And you'll see this in certain relationships. Women do this too, in relationships where if you've ever noticed, guys, that you're trying to go to work and an argument happens before you go to work and you find yourself late for work when you was originally leaving for work early, where you could have got to work like 30 minutes to an hour ahead of time so that you can get you something to eat before you started clocking in, and now you find yourself 20 minutes late for work because you just had an hour and a half argument with your partner. That's this that's this. It says they want six figures but don't realize the 80 to 100-hour work weeks that come with that lifestyle. Yeah, and then they want you to be at home. How the fuck am I going to make six figures while working 100 hours a week and still be at home? That's just the hours for a small business owner to be successful. I don't even want to think about what a CEO has to put in. Bro, CEOs be gone for weeks at a time. You're talking about nighttime meetings, morning time meetings, midday meetings, 3 week excursions. You're talking about I got to go on a business trip, and that business trip is like 2.5 weeks, 2 months long. Then when you come back with a lot more money. I might have 3 days off, but then I got to go back out again. I was talking to one of my clients that actually would travel every week for work for the last 5 years. He was six different states in America and different countries in Asia. His job had him flying. And actually, as a matter of fact, he did one trip to Hawaii and one trip to Cancun for his job. And I said over here, like, God damn, you getting a lot of freaking flyer miles. But this is what it is. This is what it is. The job is demanding. Now, back to the main topic. Travel time. Travel time. It is. It is. The travel time plus the work time, and women don't think about that. It is heavily demanded. And then when he gets home, he's exhausted, he's jet lagged, and he's going to want a woman that's going to be supportive of the fact that he just got his own ass kicked for the job. And is that going to happen in this relationship? It depends on the woman. Now, in these relationships where men are not being supportive the way they're supposed to be, if her achievements were no longer celebrated, they were more minimized, mocked, and diminished. Now, when an article was published featuring her firm, he'll glance at it and sigh. Well, I guess they'll write about anyone these days. Which, when she talks about a breakthrough with her team, he'd interrupt to talk about a minor win of his own, as if to say, I did that 2 years ago, kind of thing, you know, consistently one upping her, turning every conversation into a competition that she didn't even know that she was in. And this man was allergic to her accomplishments because he saw them as a scoreboard where he was losing. The dynamic shift in other ways can still occur because he begins to focus intensively on her appearance. So if she came home energized from a successful day, he'd ignore her stories and comment on her weight or, what she was wearing, as if to remind her that her real value was in her physical appeal. You know, there's a domain there where, he could still act as a judge and a gatekeeper, you know, He'll become controlling, questioning who she was meeting for work, drinks, framing male colleagues as mentors, as threats to the relationships, and attempting to prune the branches of her success to isolate her from the very network that's helping her grow. Now, for Sarah, this is like living in a funhouse mirrors, and the person that she loved was reflecting a distorted critical version of her back to herself, right? Now, his behavior was a constant low grade gaslighting campaign, and he'd make a lot of cutting remarks. And when she didn't get upset, he'd tell her that she was being too sensitive or letting success get to her head. She starts to question herself. Was she being too ambitious? Was she neglecting him? She finds herself downplaying her wins, hesitating to share good news for fear of his cold reactions. She's beginning to shrink herself to fit into the shrinking space that he was allowing for her. The partnership had become a prison, and her success was the crime that she was unknowingly being punished for. I'm setting this story up for you guys so that we can kind of get to, because we're like a quarter of the way in, and I'm maybe trying to give you guys like uh, a backdrop of what's going on and then why it's going on, and then potentially what to do about it. He said, modern day Disney princess mentality. I'm going to be real with you. The modern day Disney princess mentality is horrible. You cannot expect a man to be your servant and your provider at the same time. Uh, I ask women, when would you allow your child to boss you around and you're paying for your child's standard of living? And most women would say never. But women expect a man to pay for her entire standard of living and she boss him around. What? Men can get insecure too. Yes, men can get very insecure, and that's why I'm covering this topic from the perspective of men. Men can get very insecure. Men are human. Men are not allowed to express their feelings. Men are not allowed to perform anything other than a rock hard, emotionless, non-sensitive individual. But men can get insecure too. It is a healthy emotion to have. He's just got to be projected appropriately in the situation that you're in. Now, to understand what happened to Mark and what happened to many men like Mark, we have to look beneath the surface of his actions and into the murky waters of his subconscious mind. That's why we painted this picture for you guys. His behavior isn't just him being a dick, though it is that too. He is being a dick. It's not just that, it's often a symptom of a much deeper psychological conflict. There's a collision between his identity and her reality. This is where we're going to dissect the anatomy of fear. There's Brooklyn. How you doing, Brooklyn? Good to see you, ma'am. It says it's like an emotional roller coaster with Harley Quinn at the helm. Well, this particular situation is a highly successful woman that is doing it all right. She hasn't done anything wrong in her relationship, and he's looking at her exceptional growth in her career as a threat to his relationship. And there are men that do this, and that's why we're covering this topic, because the not all the time is it the woman's fault. Sometimes the man did something that he wasn't supposed to do, But there are a lot of times that the women be fucking up the relationship and blaming it on the men. Sociologically speaking, every woman that ever walks out of a relationship will point the finger at the other person. More often than not, the guys just say it doesn't work, and if they say anything about her, she was crazy or she was being a bitch, and that was it. No party ever takes responsibility and says, well, I didn't do what I was supposed to do in a relationship, or I did something that I wasn't supposed to do in a relationship, and that's why the relationship fails. So, in that observation, it's not always a Harley Quinn scenario because Harley Quinn was freaking crazy, but she was hot. A part of me is like, man, I would love to be the Joker, but then the other part of me is like, hell no, because her just cutting people heads off just for the sake of it, she was just a little bit too crazy for me. The hot crazy scale, she was not as hot as she was crazy. It was too much. She says, sorry to bother, but what have y'all covered for this podcast? So, since the last time that you were here on Sunday, uh, that's a lot of stuff. Was it Sunday or was it Wednesday that you were here? No, no, you came here on Wednesday because we were talking about Luxembourg on Wednesday. So, since Wednesday, today's Saturday, um, we have discussed um, financial improvement. We have discussed political changes. We have covered um, different banking options, and then we discussed a plan of action to improve yourself in your personal life, holistically speaking, over the last 4 days. Now, today we're supposed to be talking about why men fear, why men who apparently have a low value in their relationships fear the success of their women. And that's what we're dealing with for today's podcast because we have a different podcast 7 nights a week, and we cover something different every night of the week. He says, threat to his masculinity too. Yes, it's going to be a threat to his masculinity, especially if the guy isn't doing as much as he know that he could do. Because you have certain men that settle for less in their own life, and when they settle for less in their own life, and then they find a more successful person, they typically envy the other person because they know they could have been better. A lot of people have a fear of success and they typically live the successful life of the others from like external observation, which is what we have the highlight reels on social media. He says, his side, her side, and the truth. A lot of the times, bro, there is more than three sides because you have what happened, what you thought happened, what she thinks happened, the truth behind the dynamic because sometimes it could be because I didn't throw in like any comments that she would make that would negatively influence the situation either, but we do have a lot of times that one person will trigger something, another person will retaliate to that, and then the person that's being retaliated to will get checked for retaliating to that, where the first person who kicked the ball in the conflict isn't the person being watched, it's the person who kicked the ball back the third time. She says, I'm gonna go back and watch as well to catch up better. But thank you. Oh yeah. All of the shows are archived, so there are these shows can get like several hours long. So I don't know if you have enough time to watch them all, but they're several hours long. There's something that you can listen to in the background if you're doing something else, like you're driving in the car and you're kind of listening to the show or something like that. If you're cleaning up or organizing your house or something like that, and then you're listening to the show. You're on a long flight, and you're listening to the show. That it's perfect times to take into it. But we cover so much stuff on the show to help people with changing the way they make decisions in life and then understand why things are the way they are so that we can make better decisions in life that I mean, I believe that there's about 5 or 6 thousand hours worth of content on this platform. So there's a lot of information there, and we put a lot of stuff into the membership to help people improve. Special shout out to TF Fireball. I don't know what you're talking about. Now, First, we're going to talk about the provider identity crisis. Now, this is something that everybody's got to pay attention to. So, for a long time in many cultures, a man's identity has been strongly tied to their role as the provider. That is not changing. So, to be the breadwinner, the protector, the one who brings home the resources, that's the roles of the men. And for many men, their sense of value isn't just tied to this role, it is this role, period. So when a woman in their life, especially their partner, becomes widely successful, it can trigger a profound identity crisis. Now, some women cater to this in some ways. You said, yes, I'm a custom carpenter. Oh, you were asking if he was a carpenter. Yes, yeah, he's a carpenter. And here we go. So TF Fireball triggered Max Opposer. Now you're going to behave today, or you guys are going to sit in a timeout. Now, I understand that when we start talking about this profound identity crisis, we understand that it's not always a logical process. It is a deep instinctual feeling of being made redundant, meaning that it's a repetitive action that is unnecessary. So if he's not the provider, what is he? His sense of purpose is challenged. And instead of adapting, the insecure man panics. And this is why a lot of the times when women say that a man is insecure about her success, they are in some situations true, but some situations that's not the case. But from the perspective that he's insecure, let's look at that. This panic often manifests not as a sadness or self reflection, but as irritability, anger, and avoidance, which is classic responses to anxiety. Okay, I think you need to go sit down somewhere, buddy. Thanks to the guy, I'm able to save like 4,000 and paid off my truck. How you doing with that truck, by the way? Because the truck is paid off. If you got that time to invest, we need to link up so I can give you that link to start putting that money towards a brokerage account so that you can make money for you. Oh, you don't got to pay attention to that. So number one poser is about 15 years old. He comes to the show. He's supposed to be learning stuff. His dad knows that he's here. His dad's name is Joe. I talked to his father this time last year, and his father was encouraging him to get on the show to learn things. And then he comes to the show and starts misbehaving. And when he misbehaves, I make him take a time out. So he started wilding out. So, he's gone. I warned him that that would happen. So I made him go sit down somewhere. Now, second, and this is crucial, is the concept of the mirror of insecurity. He said, running good, I need to add intercooler to the transmission. Whew, that takes a lot of effort. I would run the concentrate because I know people be trying to stick stuff in there and doing the presets. And I'm like, when I got my a side topic real quick because he mentioned that I put my car in the shop and we did the cooling system and they put the 50-50 blend and I told them don't do that. Told them put concentrate. No, that's what we do. That's standard. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't really help me at all because the way I run my vehicles, this shit's not gonna last. So I got the vehicle. It starts overheating. And I'm like, because I know what you're gonna say. Oh, take it back to the mechanic. No, 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 no. They didn't put concentrate. This is a 2008. It's running hot because there's water in the engine. So we're gonna boil it out. So every time I would pull over, I would park the car and I would park the car and um take off the radiator cap, and then um let the steam out. And then after I let the steam out, then I'll pour the coolant in there. And then when I pour the coolant in there, then I would be like, all right, and I'll pull a straight concentrate. And then I would turn the car back on and let it run a little bit. And after doing that for a while, I actually ended up with pure concentrate in the engine. And now the car's running freaking fantastic. Jonas says, I'm gonna have to hotwire an extra fan to Arizona heat. It's brutally heavy. I've got an AC unit right there. With all the AC I got going on, I got another AC unit right next to me. Like there's like 5 bottles of water. It's hot as fuck right now. I don't do lifted trucks. You said I'll lock in and listen today. You better lock in and listen because you'll fuck around and be in timeout if you don't. It said and learn. It says it's an Allison 6 with a on the fly adapted to a 2004 1-ton terminal GMC 4x4 diesel. Okay, okay, that's good. I don't really know about the well. Technically, today is Saturday. Basically, because of the Arizona heat, transmissions been running about halfway point, and that's just a little too high for me. 190 degrees. I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. So let's go back to this insecurity situation. So your success becomes a giant, right? And this is going to be a giant glaring mirror held up to his own life, especially when his life is not performing the way it's supposed to perform. It reflects back to him all of his own perceived failures, his stagnant career, his fault for not trying to build a better career or going to find another one, and the gap between the man he wants to be and the man he is, of which he hasn't put enough effort into. So a secure, high value man looks in that mirror and says, wow, she inspires me. And her success shows me what's possible. So I need to level up. But a man whose self esteem is fragile, looking in the mirror and feels nothing but shame. And because that shame is too painful to confront, he misdirects his discomfort. The thought process isn't her success makes me feel insecure, so I should work on myself. It's her success makes me feel bad, therefore she is the problem. And his only recourse is to try to smash the mirror by criticizing her, belittling her, shrinking her back down to the size that no longer makes him feel so small, right? She said, "Tell me about it. His badass who he is. It's freaking 2 o'clock in the morning, and he over here jumping off the damn channel. I can't wait till school starts." Every time they have a sleepover, here he comes with the bullshit. I appreciate him for showing up. I just wish he would show up in a more appropriate fashion. Next step is life insurance policies for my daughter in case I fall 12 feet again and can't work with a broken, what is that, calcaneal bone? Shit, your ass should have been doing some stuff about backup plan with some. Well, okay, so if you fall off and live, the life insurance policy isn't going to help. And technically, if you get a life insurance policy on yourself so that if you die, your daughter's taken care of, that's pretty good. You want to get a policy that has enough money to cover any outstanding debts that you have. That way, the house, the car, and everything else that you have, your daughter can keep that and not have to worry about collection agencies coming to get it. That would be a key factor. You would want to make your children the beneficiaries over the. I understand the children are small. You actually could do better than that. You could actually create a trust, a third party revocable trust, where uh and then you can, if you get the revocable trust, you can find yourself in a position where you put the life insurance policy, you set the revocable trust as the beneficiary of the life insurance policy, and have the revocable trust make the kids the successor beneficiary where you're the beneficiary of the trust. And then if in the event that you die, you can have a third party that's not your wife make sure that the money goes directly to the kids' needs until the kids reach an age where they can collect the money so that you don't need probate. That's actually a better way to do it. Now, if you trust your wife's decisions, you can just let your wife deal with it. But if you don't trust your wife's decisions, because she is your ex, you could say, well, I'm going to set this up where like Charles Schwab's can go ahead and set it up. And then you don't got to worry about it. He says, it's the bone that attaches to your Achilles tendon. I basically Achilles myself. Ah, what was that? Samson that had the Achilles heel? You're kind of living the same lifestyle. Now, back to the main topic. This isn't just armchair psychology, because I know that I'm leaning on a nice little throne here. This is a dynamic, explored uh, topic in research. There is a study published by the American Psychological Association in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found something interesting. Okay. And researchers discovered that when a man's female partner succeeded, his impact self esteem, which is his deep subconscious sense of self worth, often took a hit. And this happened even when they weren't in direct competition with one another. For example, men who were told that their partner scored in the top 12% on a test showed lower implicit self esteem than men told that their partner scored in the bottom 12%. They subconsciously felt worse about themselves when she succeeded. It's important to note that more recent replications work suggests this effect might be much smaller than originally reported and may be most pronounced in the men who already have low relationship satisfaction. Oh, you don't have I believe that you don't have one after all the shit that you've been through. Samson was his hair and his strength. So who was the one with the Achilles heel? Because I only remember Samson. I remember Samson, Solomon, all of the M's, because Hercules is like the most dominant one out of the group. Because he had a TV show when I was growing up, him and Xena Warrior Princess. Now, anyway, what about for the women? The same original study found that women's self esteem was not similarly affected by their male partner's success or failure. In fact, other research has shown that women often report feeling better about the relationship when their partner succeeds, seeing it as a win for the team. Now, this dynamic can be amplified by the invisible script of gender roles. While society has made progress traditionally scripted about masculinity and femininity, this can still run in the background even when people claim an egalitarian relationship. So, when a woman becomes highly successful, she can challenge the unspoken rules that he must be a symbolically positioned on top kind of individual. A secure man might see this as an outdated rule and update his scripts. An insecure man, however, may cling to the old scripts because it's propping up his fragile ego. The fear isn't just about money, it's about status, power, and a deep seated anxiety that if you can provide for yourself, then you might realize that you can do better and leave him. That's going to be crazy. Oh, okay. Because Achilles was the one that actually got his heel taken out. That's why it was called the Achilles tendon. Oh, so his name was Achilles, and I'm thinking that I'm saying his name and not saying his name at the same time. Greco-Roman, Roman mythology, not biblical. That's not the point. You have to recognize that when you start thinking about, yeah, when you start thinking about the city of Troy, you have to recognize that all of those historical figures are all in the same era, apparently, like all before our time. So when you're not focused on that as the core fundamentals of your research, you kind of start getting confused as to who did what when. They're the most dominantly heard ones. You know their story and you remember their stories, but the less spoken ones, you're not really all that in tune with which one was which and what they did. Like we'll know what's going on with Poseidon. We'll know about, you know, Aphrodite and, you know, Hades. But what about the other six? Yeah, there's more than three. You know, there's in some of this, like what? How many gods do they have out there? How many mythological figures that they have in the Roman history? Far too many for us to remember. And since we're not from Rome, it's not etched into our memory either. We learn it indirectly, secondhand style. Now, back to the main. When a man's fragile ego feels the ground shift beneath him, his fear doesn't announce itself politely. It puts on a mask. It disguises itself as criticism, control, and sarcasm. A 100 tiny acts of relational aggression. So his fear is going to be a saboteur, and it uses a specific set of tools to dismantle your confidence. To protect your peace, you have to recognize these behaviors for what they are, the desperate tantrums of a threatened ego. Now, these are going to work both ways, but we're talking about this as it affects men or as men perform them. So we're about to break down these common tactics. I want you guys to pay attention to them. He says it's probably one of the worst pains you can ever experience, other than, say, putting a skill saw on your calf muscle, which I also did. No, tearing your Achilles tendon, because that's more nerves than anything, is going to be an excruciating pain. But I believe that it's going to be equivalent to breaking your arm, uh, specifically because of the nerve damage. That's what I think the because no matter where the nerve damage happens in the body, the nerve damage is where the pain comes from, not just the torn muscles. He says you can't walk at all at first. They told me like 6 months before I could actually walk, and I said, hold my beer. 2 weeks later, I'm walking, and on the ladder too. Well, so safely, you weren't supposed to walk for at least 6 months. They told me when I broke my foot off that I was supposed to stay off of it for 18 months, and I went back to work in three. And I'm still 20 years later, not the way I should have been. I should have let myself heal, but I needed to go to work. So I know why you did what you did. Because when I was in that situation, I did it too. But after what I experienced, that's why I told you got to start building money so that money makes money for you, so that you don't got to work, right? But let's talk about some of these common tactics. Minimizing, mocking, and dismissing your achievements. Now, this is something that both partners can do in a relationship, but we're talking about how insecure men in relationships can perform this today. Now, this is going to be the most direct form of attack. Okay. Um, you come home buzzing with excitement and you're met with a flat effect. It's the, oh, that's cool behavior before immediately changing the subject. It's the backhanded compliment. That's great. You must have had a good team to help you, as if you didn't do it on your own. Or He might try to attribute your success to factors outside of your control. The goal is simple: to reframe your earned success as a fluke by downplaying your wins. He's trying to mentally adjust the scoreboard so that he doesn't have to feel so far behind. How you doing, Casper? Good to see you. You said it disguises. Yeah, this fucking hurts like a son of a bitch. Now, tool number two: the concerned, control, and gatekeeping behavior. We're going to get into that. The concerned, control, and gatekeeping behavior. Now, y'all got to remember that men and women do this behavior to one another, but we're talking about how a man might perform this in the presence of a successful woman. He says, "Yeah, the nerve damage is extensive, and it doesn't end, bro. Right now, I have pain from the center of the bottom of my foot that wraps around the arch of my foot and then rides up the front of my foot, and it is the most excruciating pain. It's like standing on knives. It sucks." So I can only imagine what you're going through, but I know pain is pain, right? Now, let's talk about this tactic here. This tactic is going to be more insidious because it often disguises as love or concern for your relationship. He'll start to discourage the very activities that fuel your growth. Uh, Networking events, business travel, all are suddenly framed as threats. He'll say things like, "You're working so much, we never have time together anymore," or, "Do you really need to go to another happy hour?" This isn't about quality time, it's about control. By trying to isolate you from your sources of power, he hopes to make you more dependent on him, restoring his sense of importance. Okay, so if you need help with the relationship, you're going to take that to our Sunday night show. So I'm gonna tell you to not do that, because tonight we're talking about men's insecurity. So we're not even going to entertain a side topic such as that. The only reason why me and Jolin are having a side topic is because I brought it up. Okay. He says, "Oh yeah, went through that too. Got 150 raises and completely dismissed." Woo! Now, tool number three: weaponized incompetence and passive aggression. If you can't stop your success outside the home, you may try to sabotage it from within. Now, this can take the form of strategic incompetence. Suddenly, he's incapable of handling the basic household tasks that he once managed so easily. He forgets to pay a bill or doesn't know how. He's, "I don't know how to do the laundry." I hate that shit. As a grown ass man, "I can't" and "I don't know how" should not come out of a man's mouth. If you do not know how before I showed up, you better fucking figure it out, because when I get there, you should have solutions as a man to whatever your fucking problem is, and your solution should not be to depend on me to get it done. Now, if I swoop in there and Captain save them, then I will be the backup plan to your backup plan, but I should not be your first identification of a resolution to your problem. That is an unhealthy level of codependency, and I do not tolerate that. You will come to me with "I can't" and "I don't know how," and I will be like, "That is too fucking bad. You get back to me when you figure out how, because I'm not doing it for you." And I will not do it for you. He says, "Yep, see, I didn't take any pain pills. No, I took freaking 3,600 milligrams of gabapentin. Uh, so I'm kind of used to the pain now. I'm not even an aspirin. Now, I stopped taking painkillers. I took the painkillers for like 2 years, and then after that, I was like, yeah, it's not going to do any better. Now I just deal with the pain. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do anything that would block the pain at all. Just coffee, waters is what I got going on over here. Now, Back to the main topic. Suddenly, in this particular situation, his incapable behavior, he's incapable of handling basic household tasks that he once managed easily with no problem. He forgets to pay that bill. Remember, that's what we were talking about. This forces you to take on a double burden. And this is done hoping the burnout will cause you to scale back your professional ambition. And this is going to be the main reason why I don't put up with that shit. If if you can't do something that you are physically capable of doing, that you're mentally capable of doing, then you're going to do without. I will make sure that the fundamental basis of this operation is operated on, but the shit that you are assigned to do will get done by you or it won't get done. I am not gonna, I'm not going to exert extra effort to carry your weight when your weight is highly valuable but less significant than what I'm about to pull off. You're going to make me block you, bro. I keep telling you to behave and you're not paying attention. You said you was going to behave and you're not behaving. Um, Now, in this situation, his passive aggression is a silent protest against your success. Tool number four, randomly throwing your success in your face. He says, true that, man. I can't. I don't know how it's bullshit. Dude, uh, first and foremost, elderly people pull this shit off so much. I can't and I don't know how. You don't want to know how. And a lot of elderly people will do this to make themselves feel valuable to society. So what they'll do is that they'll play the victim of incompetence. And then people who don't want to see old people suffer will put themselves in an inconvenient position to help elderly people so that the elderly people don't go undone. We were raised as kids to do well for the elderly and the children, and we put extra effort into the elderly and the children. So the elderly to feel valuable to their society will deliberately put themselves in a compromising position and then I can't and I don't know how so that you do it for them. Fuck that shit. You were doing it 40 years ago when I was a child. Now that you're an adult, you're going to do it until you can't do it anymore. So when you're in that position where I'm going to do all the heavy lifting, but your mental capacity to perform, it's going to be your mental capacity to perform until you get diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's or some type of mental cognitive function where your ability to retain information is diminished. Until I get that paperwork, you're going to function or you're going to fail because I'm not going to carry your weight. He said, number one poser, you really need to stop that. It's not even funny. You're a kid. You can't be joking about that. Look, yeah, I'm giving him one more time, bro. He's been around for a while. I told his father I was gonna try to show him. He pops up with one more inappropriate comment over the next 6 months. I'm blocking him. I'm not even gonna give him. This is like the final straw because I've had multiple conversations with him since Sunday. So at this point, it's like inappropriate. He could start a new show later this week with an inappropriate comment and get blocked right then because I'm fed up with his behavior. I've asked him to stop. I've explained to him why. We had a long conversation about it on Wednesday. He knows better, and at this point, it's time for consequences for repeat performance. Now, tool number four: randomly throwing your success in your face. That's where we were. Okay. Now, this is going to be the classic signs of resentment. You'll be in the middle of a totally unrelated argument, and he'll blurt out, "Well, I guess since you have a fancy degree, you know everything." Your success becomes a weapon that he uses whenever he feels cornered. Typically, when they lose the argument, and he's going to design this to paint you as an arrogant jackass to shut you down because he cannot refute your facts, right? It reveals that your success isn't something that he's proud of, it's something that he's been storing as ammunition. Now, this happens in relationships where women do this to men too, but and Some men don't handle that type of behavior appropriately. But from today's topic, we're talking about how men respond, how men with lower value in themselves respond to successful women. He says, yeah, my mom suffered. Oh, everything froze for a second. There it is. Yeah, my mom suffered a stroke. So she's kind of off the hook on that one. But see, when you have a parent that is truly mentally incompetent and mentally incapable, those are the people that you are truly obligated to do for. If you have a parent that is lazy as fuck and they're using their age as an excuse to not perform, where if you was not there, they would have done it for themselves, that's disrespectful to the child. Because if your kids is up there doing for you what you can't do for yourself, and the things that you can do for yourself, you're gonna play the victim and say, I don't know how and I can't, then you're deliberately putting even more responsibility on your kids. Where the dynamic was when your kids were kids, you're supposed to be taking care of your kids. And now that you're an adult, if your children are reciprocating that effort, probably in a better fashion than what it was when they were originally children. In that dynamic, you're supposed to show respect and appreciation to that effort, and you're supposed to perform. If you are supposed to be the leader of the pack and you're being carried in the pack, because you're being carried in the pack, whatever you can do in this group, you're supposed to perform. I know most of us are from the same generation of latchkey kids where we were taught by our parents that everyone must contribute. Whether you have a job or not, everyone must contribute. So even if you're not bringing money into this household, you're doing something turning in this to keep this house organized. So if you have somebody that is saying I can't and I don't know how and oh my back hurts or whatever the fucking excuse is to prevent from performing, you're in a situation where you have somebody that is riding the coattails of effort, which drags down the performance of the household and forces the household to either fail or extremely experience delay. Max, I mean, one more time, I told you, you're gonna behave or you're not coming back. You got like three alt accounts on here. So stop playing games. Now, let's get on tool number 5. This is the constant fishing for reassurance. On the flip side of criticism is a desperate need for validation. Some men might need to be constantly told how great he is and how much you need him, how smart and or strong he is. Nobody ever tells us anything. The one time we get flowers is when we're dead, right? So men need a lot more validation than what they get. Some men will fish for compliments by putting himself down, saying things like, I wish I were as driven as you. And this isn't a genuine vulnerability moment. It's a manipulation tactic designed to make you stop talking about your strengths and focus on all your energy on soothing his ego. Now, a secure man doesn't need you to constantly fill his cup. He comes to the relationship with his cup already full. It says, my ex-wife got mad at me because I renovated my mom's house while she was in the hospital from her stroke during COVID, got COVID, as well as got diabetes type 1 and cancer stage 3. Man, look, hey, I had a chick, I was taking care of my mom. My mom's been retired since I'm 16. She didn't have an income. I was 25. I was taking care of my mom and living in another house, taking care of my girlfriend. My girlfriend was jealous of how much money I was spending on my mom, but I am my mom's standard of income. The woman started talking to me like I had to choose between my mama and my woman. We broke up. I made it clear to her I pay for your house and I pay for her house. So you shouldn't tell me about what I'm doing with my money when I'm taking care of my mama. I had another woman make me choose between her and a dog, and I got rid of her and got another dog. These women need to stop trying to make men choose because the woman is not number one. She, the girlfriend and the wife, would never be in a normal hierarchy of importance to a man the number one choice. And any man that says otherwise is lying to her face. She is not the number one priority because in order for him to be the kind of man that she wants him to be, his top five priorities have to be met. She is not the number one priority. She's the number one desire, but she's not the number one priority because if his shit ain't straight, his top five priorities ain't straight, he's frustrated, he's irritated, he's short tempered, and you're going to see that misdirected rage in your relationship. If you were the number one priority, he would not be taking his anger out on you. Whatever the fuck is getting on his nerves. If his job is his number one priority and he is hating his job right now, he comes home from work and he beats a dick to you. So if you were number one, then you wouldn't even know that he had a shitty job because he wouldn't even talk about it because he would come back and prioritize you. Now, yes, you are his number one desire. So he will prioritize you after he prioritizes his top five important things, but you're not going to be the most important thing in his life. And any woman that believes that her husband has her as the most important thing in her life, she's lying to herself. Because how the fuck can you be his number one priority when the bills got to get paid and he's paying the bills, the shit's got to get fixed, he's making sure shit gets fixed, organization and scheduling, medical appointments, the kids, the tuition for the kids, private schools, football practice, soccer practice, swim meets, student government, PTA meetings. You're at the bottom of that list. Yes, you're going to come before him. He's last. He's last, and you're second to last. But his list of priorities, the dog comes before you and him, right? He'll feed the dog so that the dog can get out of his face so that he can make you breakfast in bed and then he'll eat after you. But you did not come before the dog. At the end of the day. So any female that swears up and down that she's number one in his life, don't lie to yourself, girl. Don't lie to yourself. Joan says, I went up on a weekends and used the money that they inherited to renovate the house. So everything was ADA. The doors were wide. The hallways and floors were all replaced and built her a brand new art studio. That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's exactly what mine did to me. And she'll be out the door, bro. That's what she'll be out the door. These women need to understand you're not number one and will never be number one. A man will lie to a woman and say that she's number one, but truthfully, she's not number one. In order for them, so think about this. Think about this. I can't list all of the things that every man would have as their number one thing because it varies man to man. But I can tell you right now is that if you like his haircut's more important than you. If you like his wardrobe is more important than you. If you like the style of food that he eats, his diet is more important than you. If you like his physique, his workout regimen is more important than you. It's that serious. It's that serious because in order for him to maintain the things that you like about him, he has to prioritize those things over you. Because if he puts you before those things, he stops working out. He starts getting a beer belly. He stops the six pack. If he stops eating healthy, he starts having junk food all over the place. You don't like the food that he eats. If he stops going to the barber, get his hair cut regularly, his hair's all over his head. You don't think he's attractive anymore. So all of the things that makes him valuable to you, he prioritizes that over you. Because in order for him to stay the man that you want, he has to continue to maintain those things before he comes and deals with your bullshit. So you're not the first thing on his list and never will be. You're the first desire on his list. Women are going to be like, oh shit, that's deep. We need to clip that. Yeah. Now, for Sarah in this situation, life has become a tightrope walk. She's balancing a career that she loves with the exhausting job of managing Mark's mood. She starts hiding her phone when a congratulatory text comes in. She's got this uh, vague scenario where she tells him that her day was fine when it had been spectacular, and this self-shrinking behavior is slowly poisoning the relationship, replacing her pride with a constant low-grade anxiety. Um, he says, the bills don't stop, especially don't stop. So any relationship topics you're gonna have to save it for, well, today's Saturday, so you bring your relationship topic to tomorrow's show, and we'll talk about it tomorrow because I asked you guys to stay on topic. Now, the breaking point doesn't come in a single explosion of big fallout boombache argument. It arrives in a quiet, devastating moment of clarity. So Sarah's nominated for a prestigious uh, Entrepreneur of the Year award. The award ceremony is a black tie gala, a night for pure celebration. She asked Mark weeks in advance to be there. He agrees, but with the enthusiasm of a man agreeing to a root canal. The night of the gala, she waited in the lobby, scanning the crowd for him. 10 minutes passed. The starting time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. She called his phone. It went straight to voicemail. Text finally comes through and read, something came up at work. Sorry, good luck. Something didn't come up at work. She knew it in her bones. This was the ultimate act of passive aggressive sabotage. He had chosen this night, the most important night of her professional life, to make a final silent statement. He couldn't even stand to be in the same room as her success. She walks onto the ballroom alone, sat at her table, surrounded by the smiling faces of her team, and felt completely isolated. And this is an extremely embarrassing situation to be in because in this moment, you're sitting at a table with a reservation for you plus one, and your plus one isn't there. You're supposed to get up there and give a speech, and ultimately, part of your speech is going to be providing praise to the person that motivated you to be there, and that's the plus one that's not there. You don't even know what to say now. You're sitting here. Where's your husband? Oh, something came up. You're lying for him because you know he doesn't have anything to do, right? And in this moment, her category gets announced, her name gets called, she wins the award, she walks up to the stage, the applause sounding in the distance is muffled, and the epitome strikes her. She looks out at the sea of faces and it all becomes crystal clear. His sarcasm, his criticism, his abundance of absence, none of it was about her. It was never about her. It was because his sense of self worth was so fragile that her light did not just illuminate her, it exposed his darkness. His value was built on the idea of being the man, of being in control. Her success has dismantled that flimsy structure. His behavior wasn't a reaction to her, it was a reflection of him. So she wasn't too much, he was just not enough. Standing on that stage, holding that heavy glass of war, she understood in that moment that she had been trying to fix a problem that wasn't hers to solve. You know, she had been shrinking herself to fit into a box designed to keep him comfortable, not to keep her in check. And in that moment, she's going to realize that she was done apologizing for her ambition. The relationship might be over in this situation, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was finally getting herself back. The emotional toll of being in a relationship with an insecure man is an immense feeling. It's a quiet erosion of self, a psychological tax levied on your ambition. Now, this manifests first and foremost as a deep internal conflict because you're going to feel pride in your own achievement, but you also feel guilt and anxiety because you've been conditioned to believe that your success is causing problems in your relationship. You start to see your ambition as a liability. The conflict leads directly to self shrinking. It's a subconscious survival mechanism. You downplay your success to keep the other person in your life with the peace that you need in your relationship. So you say, we got lucky instead of I landed the deal. You turn down opportunities because the emotional cost of dealing with his reaction is just far too high. You could have been a CEO in a company, but you turned down the position because it would have taken you away from your family. It's just him. It's not kids and grandkids or anything like that. It's just this guy. He's take his ass to work, right? Now, this psychologically devastating uh the person because it teaches you that love is conditional on you staying small, which is not true. Over time, this can curdle into a pervasive the fear of being and actually the fear of being too big to be loved. And the irony in this is that after that last relationship, the trauma of that type of relationship would lead you to be in a scenario where you might fear that you've already become too big to be loved and you are not worthy of being in a new relationship because you have outpassed or outpaced the qualifications of being in that relationship, which is also not true. If you went from being a $50,000 a year income lady to being a $150,000 a year income lady, you too deserve to be in a happy relationship with somebody that you respect, that respects you. But the expectations that a woman at $150,000 a year is going to have is going to be far higher than the expectations of a woman that's working at Ross as a cash register. He says, see, that's basically his weaponized absence. That's true. You're right. You're definitely right. That is definitely right. Now, over time, I already covered that part. So after one or two relationships fail, the moment that you start to shine, you're going to internalize a toxic narrative that says my success is the reason that I'm alone, right? Ultimately, because you choose the wrong person, you date within your type, and your type might be toxic. But if you're dating within your type, and each time you date a dude who doesn't like your success, because you're dating men with lower value that you thought might have had ambition, but they didn't. They were content where they were. You keep climbing a ladder, they keep falling behind. And then you start blaming yourself for this when that's not truly the case. You didn't actually grab you a man of value, you just grabbed you a man. You start to believe that your strength and drive are unattractive qualities. They're not unattractive qualities. A woman's strength and her drive are qualities that are valuable in the relationship. It's just that your strength and your drive is also supposed to fuel the relationship. You know, not drain a relationship. So as long as what you're doing is directly or in some situations indirectly benefiting the success of the relationship, you keep doing what you're doing. But here's the counter narrative though, and you must hold on to this. Emotionally mature, high value men are not intimidated by your success. They're inspired by it. They aren't repelled by your ambitions. They're drawn to it. Your success isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. And it's the most effective filter that you'll ever have for weeding out the men who are not strong enough to build a true partnership with you. So, let's name the most hidden costs here. The silent career tax. This is the invisible tax that a partner's psychological ceiling places on your potential. The promotions that you don't go for, the risks that you don't take, the networks that you don't build, all to avoid triggering his insecurity. All of that adds up. The greatest tragedy is not that he leaves, it is that you stay and allow his fear to become the blueprint of your life. He says her success is less stress on finances. And okay, so If her success brings less stress on finances, then her contribution to the relationship is a less stressful financial life. And that is a value. Now, women are going to say, "Oh, but I thought you said at the beginning of the show 2 hours ago that a woman's career doesn't positively impact their relationship." It doesn't, because 90% of women take care of themselves and they take care of the children, and the man takes care of the woman, and the man takes care of the house, and the woman might go half on a house, but she's not going to go more than half on a house. So ultimately, since she does not, the average woman does not utilize her financial success to benefit the improvement of the standard of living, at the end of the day, it doesn't help. And thing about this, we did the research and we were talking about it. Well over 60% of Americans have either two jobs or more than one person living in the same place to sustain a standard living. Lifestyle creep. So you get a girlfriend, she dating you for whatever reason, and y'all both got jobs. So y'all go from living in two separate houses to living in the same house. But you're not going to live in the same cheap house that you had when y'all first met. What you're going to do is you're going to get a bigger place because y'all brought y'all money together. So y'all both might be $50,000, $55,000 a year people making $110,000 together. Y'all might have both been living an individualistic $50,000 a year lifestyle. Y'all come together, might cost you $75,000 a year to live together, right? But now you're going to move into an $80,000, $90,000 lifestyle, plus, the stuff that she needs to do her thing. And you're ultimately now operating a $110,000 a year lifestyle, joint income. So instead of y'all living a $50,000 a year lifestyle under one income and putting the other $50,000 a year into a brokerage account where you have a $500,000 10 years into your relationship, plus interest, which would be like $750,000, you instead live from paycheck to paycheck for 10 years. And if y'all don't have any financial problems, y'all been together for 10 years, but you still don't have $5,000 in the bank between the two of you. That's why I say that her income doesn't benefit the relationship, because if he works by himself as $100,000 a year man, they're living from paycheck to paycheck. If she brings $50,000 to the table, they're still living paycheck to paycheck. In that dynamic, her money did shit to improve the life, because in order for him to retire, he has to hit it big somewhere, either by building his own retirement, 401ks and Roth IRAs from his job, a big insurance claim from somewhere. Because he doesn't have it if he's living from paycheck to paycheck. And 41% of a man's income goes on his girlfriend, even though 23% of the money that goes on a girlfriend does the girlfriend benefit from. So the 18% of the money is just thrown away for entertainment for the girl. Instead of bringing 50% more income into the household, he's throwing away 41% of the income, and it's subsidized by 50% of her contribution, which means that he's only going to have a 15% gain on a 41% loss. That's why her income isn't valuable. I ain't taking shots at the ladies now. Today's whole show was about how why dudes ain't shit, don't value girls that are successful. Why does Ken treat Barbie like garbage? That was on today's whole show. He says, from the perspective of the man, is emotionally secure. Yes, uh, that's going to be from the perspective of a man that's going to be emotionally secure. Is that her success is going to be less financial stress on the household. If he's in the kind of relationship where her success is going to be given to him for him to invest it, if he's got more more investment knowledge than her. Not saying that men can invest better than women, they can, but I'm just saying that if she doesn't have more investment knowledge than him, and they have extra money, and he is investing in our future style scenario, if she's bringing in extra money and she's giving it to him for him to invest it in places where they're making more money together, in that dynamic, then her success in her career should be encouraged by him, because they together will become wealthier together. Because it technically doesn't matter who brings in the money when you stop doing social roles as traditional expectations. What matters is what we do with it once it gets here. Because even as a protector and a provider, she could bring home the bacon and he can turn it into several cows, and ultimately we have an abundance. If she brought in just enough to get by, he flipped that to 10 times more. He still has value in the relationship. So it doesn't have to be that, he's got to go to work and bring back money. If she goes to work and brings back the money, he takes the money and puts it somewhere where the money's making more money for the both of them. When she decides to quit her job, there's an abundance of money there. That still is value from his perspective, but not a lot of people see it that way. Now, understanding the psychological aspects of that would be mentally liberating. But knowledge without action is just trivia. So the real power is going to come from using this understanding to change your life, to vet differently, to establish non negotiable expectations for behavior, and to build a life where your success is celebrated, not sabotaged. So, first, you must master the litmus test, which is recognizing red flags versus green flags. You need to become a student of behavior, able to distinguish a fragile ego from quiet confidence. Red flags of a man insecure is that his he subtly minimizes or diminishes your good news. If he frames your drive as a character flaw, too ambitious or workaholic, he discourages you from networking or taking risks, making control as concern or masking the control as a concern. So you got to recognize that. So if he's discouraging you from networking or taking risks to excel in your career, he's masking control as concern. Now, fellas, if you got this happening in your relationship and your woman is telling you that you work too much and you're not doing enough around the house, and why are you going on all these business dinners and stuff like that? It could be the same thing, masking control as concern. Now, for an insecure man, he'll see the relationship as a competition, constantly one upping you. With women, it might be an emotional thing, whereas they find that you putting too much of your attention towards not her, and she'll be competing with whatever's got most of your attention. It happens that way. A man is going to use passive aggressive comments or sarcasm about your success. He needs constant validation and reassurance to soothe his ego. This is going to happen with women as well. Passive aggressive or sarcastic comments are going to occur about your job, about your coworkers, about your lack of work life balance. And women always need a lot of validation and reassurance about how they look and how they behave, and if you claim to be satisfied with their presence and appearance, because they're trying to soothe their ego. The more insecure you are, the lower the self esteem the person may have, the more the person might go fishing for validation. Green flags of a secure man. He's going to celebrate your success as a shared win. Your victory is his victory. That doesn't mean that if I win the lottery, we won the lottery. If I won a lottery, bitch, I won a lottery. We just live at the same address, but I won the lottery. Now, if I share it with you, then that's different. But mainly, um, he's going to be genuinely inspired by your ambition. Your drive is going to motivate him. He's going to support you without saving, right? He's going to respect your competence and empower you. He maintains his own life, no matter how big or small comparison to yours, and he's going to maintain his own individual purposes. His identity isn't wrapped up in you. He engages in respectful dialogue, aiming for connection, not domination. He's consistent, he's confident, he's quiet, and stable because it's built on character. Once you learn to recognize these signs, your dating life will transform. You're going to develop an allergy to those red flags and naturally move away from them very quickly, regardless of whether or not it's a first date observation or if you've been around them for 4, 6 months, a year, and then you start seeing this shit happening. You're like, you know what? This is not what I want in my life, and start pulling away from it quickly. Some people who are effectively invested in a relationship will find themselves pulling away from that relationship because of um, it not being beneficial to you, but other people will find that I am so financially invested, I'm so emotionally invested, I've invested so much time out of my life into this that I don't want to lose out on my investment. The logic there is misguided because the longer you stay, the more you are throwing away time, resources, and emotional investment into something that's not good for you. It's like being at the casino and putting a million on black, even though it only lands on red. And you know this, but you continuously throwing away a million on black, a million on black, a million on black, but it's always telling you red, red, red. No matter how long you stay there, it doesn't matter how much you invested. If you don't change your narrative, you're just going to continue to throw away your entire empire because you're investing emotionally, psychologically, physically, financially into something that you clearly see doesn't benefit you. And some men are doing this for the emotional stability. Some men do this for the companionship. But truth be told, if it is not benefiting you in the ways that you would consider it a happy life, you don't want to stay there. So you want to pull out, cut your losses, charge it to the game, ride some of that shit off on your taxes, but don't stay in a place that doesn't benefit you to the magnitude where your growth stems from that relationship. Now that's universal because ladies, y'all can take that and run with it, but fellas, y'all can take that and run with it too, right? This is going to lead to the next step. You want to lead with authenticity, not your resume. So don't hide your ambition on the first date to avoid scaring men away. You know, your ambition is a filter. Be unapologetically you. Talk about your goals and your visions. I tell y'all that at the end of every show. The insecure man will be intimidated and self select out of this situation. The secure man, the one that you actually want, will lean in, intrigued and energized by your fire. Because how the fuck are we going to make $1 million if you don't have $1 million mindset? Now, finally, for the men watching this, there's a challenge and a pathway forward. And if you're recognizing any of these insecure behaviors in yourself, or if you know somebody that's doing this, and you believe that this isn't for you, you got to recognize this isn't a life sentence. It's a call to action. It says, be true to yourself and know yourself. Yes, that's true. First thing we have to do for those insecure men that realize that you've been doing this for a while and you didn't know what you were doing and why you were doing it, you want to start with rebuilding your self worth on an intrinsic trait. So you want to stop tying your value to your income or your job title. Build it on things no one can take from you: your integrity, your character, your purpose in life. And your purpose in life should not be dedicated to another person's life. Okay. Because if that person is no longer in your life, you no longer have purpose. Your purpose must be a unilateral purpose that will always be effectively performed by you with or without the people in your network around you. You want to update your internal gender scripts. Understand that the true masculinity isn't about dominance, it's about strength. And there is an immense strength in championing a powerful woman because behind every strong black man was a strong black woman, is what they used to say back in the hood. But behind every strong man is supposed to be a strong woman. Modern society, that doesn't apply because behind every man is an AI machine that's helping him be successful. And behind every woman is a strong man. And women are going to admit that either because they're going to say, I'm single and I've been successful for how many years? But who paid to get you through the door? Some dude somewhere, and you left after you reached a certain level of success, but you can't say that you didn't get there without some male assistance because self-made men are not made on their own. They just sustained themselves after everybody who helped them get started left. A self-made woman is going to be the same way. Somebody along the way particularly held that door open for you so that you could get in the room and become who you are. Women who say that business is run by men, in order for women to be correct and be successful at the same time, that means that a man opened the door for you to be successful. If the industry you're successful in is run by men, in order for you to be successful, a man had to allow it to happen. It is what it is. Is that that's true. Job isn't an occupation. Money comes, money goes. Your world, however, resonates in the minds of everyone you encounter. And you should make sure that you're encountering the type of people that benefit your energy. Now, you want to learn to tolerate the discomfort of comparison, because when your partner succeeds and you feel that pain of insecurity, sit with it. Get curious about it. Use it to fuel your own self improvement. You got to understand, if you're working in a fast food restaurant, you're a night shift manager, that's what you got going for you, right? If your girlfriend's a lawyer, she's a lawyer. If she goes from being a regular lawyer to being a partner in the company, you're not going to become a store manager. So at the end of the day, her career is going to jump leaps and bounds over yours. You can't get jealous of her career advancements simply because y'all have different occupational designs. Um, he says failure is a teaching moment of inflection. Yes, it can be, only if you want to learn. And I strongly, a person who fails 100 times and succeeds once has more knowledge than a person who has never failed. And the true dynamic of this is that a person who has never failed doesn't know how to improvise when things don't go according to plan. A person who has failed 100 times has found 100 ways to approach the situation and succeeded at least once. The mentality that there is always another way requires you to find other ways. We can throw that saying around that where there's a will, there's a way. But if you have no will, there is no way. So there could be a multitude of solutions to resolve your problem. But people will say, I can't and I don't know how. I tried and did not succeed. You didn't fail. You tried by showing up and there was a long line and the place is gonna close soon, so you just didn't achieve it. Well, if the fucker closes in 15 minutes and you're not going to get your chance in line today, then why don't you show up first thing tomorrow and get this shit done tomorrow? That is the part that people don't pay attention to, is that you might not get everything that you want done in the moment that you thought it could get done. I tried is an excuse to allow you to not succeed. You either did it or you didn't. You might have did it late. You might have did it very late, but you fucking did it. But if you don't do it, you just didn't do it. If you started something and didn't finish, you just didn't finish. It's not, oh, I started, but I got tired. I started, but my body hurts. No, you started and you failed to finish the job. And until you finish the job, you will continue to fail to finish the job, which makes you a failure in your own right because you didn't do what you could do. The ideology of potential. Potential is the ability to do the things that you currently are not doing, which is an insult more than a compliment because ultimately having potential means that you're too fucking lazy to succeed. And when you stop being lazy, you will start to succeed. People don't want to hear that. There's no nice way to tell you that you're fucking up. He says, and then you have the occurrence of Kalia's rule. Murphy was a demand optimist. Oh, you said that Murphy was a damned optimist. Well, you gotta understand. Um, anybody who pessimistically finds fault in every solution to the problem is not trying to solve the problem. But you cannot blindly assume that everything's going to work out. It is not going to go the way you want it to go, but it will potentially get you where you need it to be after a period of time has passed of you never giving up and continuing to apply yourself. Failure is usually giving up. Yeah. If you start a task and you didn't finish it, you gave up on a task. Not took a break from it. No, you didn't fucking finish it because you could have finished it. It could be done right now. It's just not done. A man who can do this work becomes immensely attractive. He offers something far more valuable than a paycheck. He's going to offer an emotional safety area. All right. So at the end of the day, this story isn't really about men versus women. It's about security versus insecurity. It's about character versus ego. You're going to encounter men whose fragility cannot withstand the heart of your ambitions. They'll try to convince you that your light is a problem and that your fire's too hot. They're going to ask you 1,000 subtle and not so subtle ways to be less and to want less and to shine brightly. Do not honor those requests. That doesn't benefit you at all. Your success is not a weapon, it's a mirror. And if a man looks at your success and sees his own failure, that is his work to do, not yours. That's his fucking problem. Your only job is to protect your flame, to nurture it, to grow it, and to share it and its warmth only with those people who are not afraid to stand next to you while you burn brightly. I had a buddy of mine that told me, "Oh, I don't like the spotlight." And I told him, I said, "Well, you can't be my friend because I'm always in the fucking spotlight. You will be indirectly in the spotlight just because you stood next to me when I walked in the room. There's no way that you're not going to be in the spotlight if you're rolling with me. Soon as I get out of this car, the spotlight's going to shine on us. So if you don't like the spotlight, my guy, and there's no shadows casted upon me, so you can't stand behind me and try to avoid the spotlight. If you do not like the spotlight, you and I can't go. We can't exist together because I will always be somewhere where the light will be shining on me." He said, "Improve, improvise, adapt, and overcome." Those are good fundamental traits, but it also requires establishing motivation to improve, you know, the willpower to continue through adversity. Because the Miss America improvise, adapt, and overcome, you first have to figure out that there is a problem, self awareness. Then you have to find a solution to the problem. Then you can in because how can you improvise if you don't know the alternatives? How do you adapt if you don't know what the solutions are? And then how do you overcome if you don't know what's on the other side or how to get to the other side? These fundamental truths, there's some underlining areas there, but you are correct. Yes, once you realize that there's a problem, once you realize that there are solutions that you're currently not applying, you want to improve your situation. You want to improvise by fixing what's broken. Once you realize that it's broken, you want to start adapting to your environment when things that you can't change. You want to adapt to those scenarios, and then you want to overcome the obstacle that is holding you back. But if the obstacle that is holding you back is you, the first thing you got to do is recognize that you are your own fucking problem. If you look in the mirror and the mirror says that you're fucking up, I mean, y'all remember what was her name? Snow White, and the Wicked Witch was talking in the mirror, and the mirror was talking shit, and she didn't like what the mirror had to say, so she had to disguise herself as an old hag and go poison a woman. Now, if the mirror told her that what she didn't like, instead of her getting pissed off, if she would have just asked the mirror, "What do I have to do to accomplish my goal?" and the mirror would have gave her a solution, she could have just improved. But even in that Walt Disney remake of the Brothers Grimm classic, instead of me finding out that I'm not as good as the next person, envy, revenge, sabotage is the resulting behavior. And this is a children's story. He said, "Yeah, that's special shout out to Chaperon. Yes, I am very wise from many, many moons of learning from my own mistakes. So I'm very wise in that dynamic. I appreciate that." He said, "Yeah, that's the root of recognizing one's own faults. Ain't nobody's fault but my own. Yes, sir. I am here because I put myself here. So whenever we blame society, whenever we blame the government, whenever we started the show and people were blaming Democrats for Republican decision making, bro, we are in a shitty situation because we don't vote enough. You're supposed to vote every year in every city, in every state, on every level of politics. The fact that shit is not the way we want it to be is because 380 something million people put the responsibility on 501. If we don't like the outcome, that is our fault because we're supposed to be changing over people in the White House the way we change over jury duty. We don't have 20,000 people rotating out of Congress. We have the same 501 people there year in and year out, 20, 30, 40 years in a row because we don't want to do it. Not because we don't qualify, because we don't want to do it. Okay. But they're making a fucking $250,000 a year to argue about the bills. Jury duty pay you $40 a day, but fucking Congress pays you $250,000 a year to argue about the governmental bill. So I don't understand why we don't want to do it, but everybody's entitled to it. But just like jury duty, right? Think about that for a second. Now, when you're looking for the right partner will not fear your success. They will see it as an integral part of who you are, not who they are. And they're going to be proud of you and they're going to be proud to stand beside you, not in your shadow. They won't try to dim your light and they will definitely pass you the gasoline to help your light shine brighter. And that is the kind of partnership that you're going to be worthy of. So you don't want to settle for anything less than somebody that's going to fuel your ability to succeed. He said, the mirror was the villain. Ain't that some shit? But yeah, here's the weird part. How did he get in the mirror? How did he get in the mirror? Somebody put him in there, right? So the mirror was a villain that ended up being trapped in the mirror because of his villainy, and he was only able to influence people who talked to him through the mirror. That was some wild shit. But the irony is that the emotionally insecure, evil stepmother that wasn't all that evil, misunderstood, was negatively influenced by the persuasiveness of the mirror. And then she did unconscionable things to try to maintain her status in her kingdom, which made her the bad guy. But she was a secondary bad guy because she was a puppet to the influence of the mirror. Had she minded her own damn business and recognized that old people get old and your child is gonna be better looking than you, stop being a bitch and let your kid cut because you only gonna be able to run this kingdom until you get too old for it and die out anyway. So, you're supposed to make sure that the next generation receive the type of care that influences them to look after you when you get older. Sapphire, we do comments like that on Sunday night show. This is a Saturday night show where we're talking about the successful women and the men that fear them. So, question on our way out for tonight. Have you ever felt like you had to shrink yourself or downplay your achievements in relationships? I know me and Joel have, and it didn't work out, and we started changing the way we do shit. But what was the moment that you realized their reaction wasn't your fault? Make sure if you haven't done so already, put your story into the comments section because your experiences could be the symphony that somebody else needs so that they can potentially read this and remember that they're not alone in this. And if this message had resonated with you guys, make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Like the content that you're watching right now, because we're going to have more information on how to navigate success, ambition, and relationships with confidence. Um, so we ran us a 3 hour show today. That is all I was able to cover for you guys for today. Tomorrow we're going to be doing some questions and comments from the fans. And then Monday, we're going to be talking about some new financial changes that you guys need to pay attention to. And I do believe we're talking about 401ks on Tuesday. So we've got a big lineup ahead of you guys. Make sure that you go to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Whether you're watching us from Twitch or if you're watching us from YouTube, make sure that you guys go to the channel and take a look at all of the shows that we have laid out for you and start hitting the notification buttons on all of those shows so that you can be notified of when those shows go live. We're going to be trying to tee it off at about 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Most nights out of the week, something really close to that timeline. Sometimes it's 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes it's right on the dot. So just be sure that you try to swing around and see what we got going on. And then we've got a lot more information for you because we got quite a few other countries that we're going to be covering because Wednesday we have a new country. I don't remember what it is, but we have a new country for you guys on Wednesday. So I want to make sure that you guys stay tuned and follow along. If you haven't taken a look at the membership, go take a look at the membership because we have more information, step-by-step guides and walkthroughs for topics like the ones that we had today that kind of helps you guys build a plan of action on how to make these changes because just like Jolin said, that you are supposed to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Well, I'm going to be giving you guys a step-by-step observation on how to raise self-awareness, then improvise, then adapt, and then overcome the situation that you're in so that you can improve yourself. Because instead of just blaming your partner about why your relationship sucks, if you improve yourself, that improves a portion of your relationship and then provides motivation to your partner to improve themselves so that the two of you can thrive together in a relationship. So, with that being said, that's all I've got for you guys for tonight. I'm going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give you this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by improving your financial life, but also by improving your decision-making skills because your personal decision-making skills indirectly and sometimes directly impacts your financial life. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, as you've seen from tonight's content, that you too can learn from the information that I provide to you here on This and That, where if you prioritize your 20 and 30-year goal and reverse engineer that's what you have to do today and steadfast on achieving those goals today, you keep your eyes and ears open for the right suitor that has the right personality and characteristics, drive, ambition, integrity, admiration, motivation, dedication, and integrity to achieve his own goals. And then you see what goals he's got compared to your goals. And if you guys have long-term satisfaction goals instead of short-term gratification goals, you guys can be successful together. And I tell you guys on a regular basis that two people can make it to $1 million faster than one. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. Special shout out to Jolin, Steven, Michael. I'm going to say Max the Poser, TF Fireball, even though they were appropriate today. Brittany, special shout out to Brooklyn and Brittany and Cardinal Rules and Nicole, because it's been a while since Nicole has dove in from Detroit, Michigan. Kathy, who was talking about her boyfriend, Tony. I really appreciate you guys for diving into the show tonight. And then the Silver Wanderer, who came in politically incorrect at the beginning, and OG Kicks. I really appreciate you guys. And our one of the new members into the membership, Unc Andy 47. I really appreciate you guys for coming to the show. So thank you again for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will be seeing you guys.
My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.